It's nice to be
Yeah,
here.
it's so nice to have you on the
Yeah.
platform today. I really appreciate that you are joining us to share from your wealth of knowledge and experience. So I will just quickly give a brief overview of what we'll be doing here today to the audience, and shortly after, then I introduce you. Then you give a brief address to the audience, so they get to catch on with us, right? So this the topic of discourse today is extension in the marketplace of development, basically looking at a fusion of art and science, right? So we are looking at about 2 hours for this discussion. It's going to be conversational, question and answer. The audience can participate in this. So I'll just give the audience a brief, outline on what's on the timeline today. We start with the event brief, introduction of guest, uh, guest speech, question and answer with the guest, and also audience participation. We have the then the closing remarks, quick summary, and vote of thanks, and official closure of the event. So, good afternoon, everyone. Today we gather to explore a fascinating and vital aspect of development, extension in the marketplace, right? So extension is more than just transfer of knowledge or technology. So it is crucial bridge that connects innovation to real world application, enabling development efforts to reach communities, markets, and individuals who need them most. So, but what makes extension truly effective? It is the unique fusion of art and science. On one hand, we rely on rigorous scientific research, data, and technology to create solutions that address real challenges. And on the other hand, we embrace creativity, empathy, communication, and cultural understanding, right? Elements of art that allow these solutions to resonate with people and be adopted successfully. So this process is more than just fusion of art and science. It's inherently multidisciplinary, involving collaboration among diverse fields such as technology, social sciences, economics, and communication. So equally important is that the active engagement of multiple stakeholders, from researchers, extension professionals, to local communities, policymakers, and market actors. So in this discourse, we will explore how this complex fusion of art, science, multidisciplinary expertise, and stakeholder collaboration, drives effective extension in the marketplace of development. We also consider the challenges and opportunities this approach presents for the future. So I invite you to engage openly, share your insight, and together deepen our understanding of how extension can continue to drive meaningful and lasting development. So I go to the introduction of the special guest today. I am beyond thrilled to introduce our distinguished guest, Professor Kehinde Thomas, a globally recognized professor of agricultural extension and rural development at the University of Ibadan, holding a PhD and MSc from the University of Ibadan and BSc from University of Calabar. Professor Thomas has over 30 years of experience across Nigeria, Ghana, Mali, and Kenya, specializing in development communication and social change. His groundbreaking work includes leading the 2024 and 2025 Sasakawa Africa Association Digital Extension Project, founded by the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, to revolutionize Nigeria's public-private extension delivery. So, as a social specialist for the World Bank's 2020 to 2023 Ogun State Economic Transformation Project, he drove engagement and value chain development for maize, rice, and cassava. Professor Thomas' extensive research, published in journals like Africa Focus and Agricultural Tropical Earth Subtropical, explores gender inclusion, migration impacts, and cocoa commercialization, helping to shape policies and sustainable agriculture. So, as a polyglot, fluent in English, Yoruba, and Hausa, he masterfully blends scientific tools like the SPSS and ICT with the heart of community-driven solution, embodying today's theme, the future of art and science. So join us as Professor Thomas. shares transformative insights for Nigeria's agricultural future. So I would leave the mic briefly for Professor Thomas to introduce himself and just address us. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much. Kennedy Thomas is my name, like as we rightly said. I lecture in the University of Ibadan. And it's very interesting to know that I came into this market as a novice, but now I'm a good trader in the market. As we journey in this discourse, you're going to understand why we want to just situate the issue of extension practice in marketplace of development. Quite a number of our students, they are naive, just like I was when I came into this space. But over time, I was able to learn that there's nothing as good as being in this space. I don't want to just begin to say what I've done, which of course is online. If you really want to know what we have done, you can really get all of that online. But this discourse really, in my heart, is to bring on board the young generation to this market. Those who felt wasted their time studying extension, those who felt they cannot get anything from agriculture, quite a number of things they can get from extension practice. And doing that today, you are going to have value for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Thomas. That was a rich profile. Captivated by that, and also your address, and what you reach for this session, and also trying to help young people that are trying to find their way, in the space. So I will just proceed to the first question of the day. And if you're having any question, you can drop it as we proceed. We'll be engaging with the questions as Charles Ayeba Baidu Bamute. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. Is saying hi, and we are saying hi to you as well. So, um, Professor Thomas, thank you for gracing this platform, and I wanted to share from your vast wealth of knowledge and experience. So, we have a deep and interesting topic at hand today. You know,
Mhm.
extension in the marketplace of developments, a fusion
Extension practice. Extension
extension
practice.
practice. Yeah. So, thank you
Yeah.
for the correction. Extension practice
Yeah.
in the marketplace of development, a fusion of art and science. Professor, when I first shared this topic, quite a number of people, they struggle to understand what it meant, and many other think whether extension involves art or science. So they were like, "What marketplace? What is marketplace of development?" So for my first question, I would like you to first break down this topic. Explaining the themes and collecting them together that we may have, and particularly for the audience, that are with us today, that we may have better understanding of the topic and thereby actively follow the discourse of the day. Thank you. You can have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Aziz. I see this as a very big opportunity to educate the audience, to sensitize colleagues, students, and extension practitioners, particularly to see the changing rules in extension practice. Now, the title conveys that extension practice operates within a complex and dynamic development environment. And you agree with me that quite a number of development practice is all over the place. And in this development environment, we have diverse actors interacting, and knowledge is what is negotiated, adapted, and applied. And of course, the success of this interaction demands both scientific competence and artistry of human engagement. We need to note that because the extension practitioner, therefore, is not just a technical expert, but also a creative facilitator, a communicator, and also a change agent. You will agree with me that the landscape of development is evolving, and the role of extension practice stands at both as a bridge and a beacon. And I want you to mark it. The discussion is not talking about agri extension practice. We are talking about extension practice in general. So the extension practice that we talk about stand as a bridge and a beacon to connect knowledge to need. And I want us to mark those words that there must be a connection with knowledge and need. While at the same time, the issue of policy must be connected to practice. And of course, the innovation that we are talking about, that we preach in extension, must be connected to impact. So you could see the trajectory. Knowledge that we gain and we disseminate must be tied to needs of the people, not just wants. Policy formulated must be tied to practice. Innovation must be tied to impact. So it's important for us to reflect at it because we are all invited into these to interrogate and appreciate the dynamic interplay between the technical rigor and human-centered creativity that define effective extension work. So it will interest you to note that in all of this, extension practice is often misunderstood. If you ask anybody now what is extension, they will tell you it's just a mere of channel of information dissemination. Well, in its true essence, it is a multi-dimensional process, and it is grounded in science, okay, and also it is also grounded in the issue of art. So, why the science of extension draws upon the evidence-based research, of course, we gather data, innovation system. The art of extension thrive on communication, negotiation, cultural sensitivity, trust building with diverse stakeholders. So you could see that when we galvanize those two together, you will talk about drawing data. Where do you get those data? From the people. And of course, in the marketplace of development that we are talking about is a metaphoric space where competing needs, ideas, and actors, they converge. And it is the duty of extension practitioners to negotiate and translate this to a meaningful change. And I want us to note that until change happens, nothing has been done. So the task of extension practitioner is not just for transfer of knowledge, delivering training, but to foster inclusive participation, catalyze local, innovation, and empower individuals and communities to become co-creators in their development journey. So it's a whole lot of things. And when we talk about all of this, you could see psychology, you could see sociology, you could see applied science, and what have you. So it's important for us to know that it is not just mere disseminating information. There are a whole lot of scenarios that play together to ensure that the change we are looking for, we get them. So the fusion is talking about the interplay between what we get in science, between what the people, what they do, and what have you. And you agree with me, is a complex scenario and quite dynamic. Dynamic in the sense that what you get in one community is not the same when you get to another community. You may think you know so much about the people, but as you journey across, continents, across race, you will see the difference of this interplay. And it's the duty of an extension practitioner to understand this scenario for a meaningful change to take place. So, by way of summary, the title is to convey the operational operandi of an extension agent amidst this dynamic and complex development space. So the marketplace is where we operate. And as we continue this discussion, you will see, you get to understand more about the marketplace. And of course, I'm going to invite as many people into that marketplace because the marketplace is so large enough to accommodate even Aziz. Aziz is in that marketplace. What he's doing now also is a development communication work, and of course, is also in that development marketplace. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for that explicit communication. I was able to grab every essence of it, and I trust that people listening to us also, they well understand what the topic of today, means. So before I proceed to the next question, I'll just quickly mention that we have quite a lot of people that are sending in their eyes, and a number of people joining us. I just quickly want to mention them: History Vault, Elon Bethel, Eunice Bamikole, Aziz Zainab, Emmanuel Festinachi, Fantasy Lover, the History Vault, Obasede Oluwaseun, Adiola Amoro, Afiu Sodiq, Olawale. Very sure that you are here to listen to Professor Thomas. So I will move on to the next question quickly. Professor Thomas, extension process to promoting and ensuring change or development, it entails pluralistic interactions, like you've well established. However, multidisciplinary collaboration is not new to extension work. We have seen innovation extension system, right? And in many cases, we fail to perfectly bridge science and indigenous knowledge to create sustainable and innovative solutions to many of our problems. For instance, improving agricultural productivity and rural livelihood. So, what do you think? I'd like to ask you, what do you think are the biggest impending, factors derailing this sort of synergy between art and science?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. I need to re-emphasize that the effective extension practice borders on sound scientific foundation and human touch. Sound scientific foundation and human touch. And if you look at those two variables, it's not something that you pick on the shelf. And that is why the professionalization of extension is key. Just like a teacher, quite a number of people felt that they can just enter classroom and teach any subject without educational foundation. Quite a number of people today are saying they are practicing extension without the prerequisite training, without the prerequisite foundation for the scientific knowledge and human touch. And that is why I said earlier, the scientific competence must bring that connect between knowledge and need. And of course, because of the multidimensional situation that we have around us, the needs of people varies across communities to communities. And of course, we have quite a number of people out there. And I'm going to paint a scenario, which I tell my students most of the time. Scientists, they will develop, let's look at the issue of the yellow cassava. Yellow cassava was developed. Quite a number of people felt the vitamin A component is going to bring the yellow component bring the vitamin A. It was all celebrated among scientists, among breeders. But when it was taken across the eastern Nigeria, where they like to mold their fufu, but because of the component, the starch component is very low. After 1 year of adoption, the adoption was discontinued. You can see there, we have the scientific knowledge, but it's not connecting to the need. So that is why every extension practice, if you must survive in the marketplace of development, just like when you go to market, it is demand, where you have the forces of demand and supply. And in these forces of demand and supply, you discover that you have marketers who are all out there to ensure that people buy. And for them to buy, they must have value for their money. And getting value for their money implies that their needs must be met. So it's not just about knowledge. The second one is the issue of policy must translate into practice. Quite a number of people, because of scientific breakthrough alone, and they are not fusing the human touch. The human touch must be fused into the foundation of science. When that is done, that is when the needs are met. That is when the issue about innovation also translates into impact. And without that, that can only be done by certified extension practitioners. So the major hindrance has to do with we have so many quack in this profession. And unfortunately, they have penetrated the marketplace. And what we need to do now is to stand out as an extension practitioner to do it well so that we connect our knowledge to the needs of the people, we connect policies to the issue of practice, and also connect innovation to impact. The impact is the desired change. It takes time, but we shall get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Professor, and thank you for bringing uh, practical aspect to it. Citing the yellow cassava and also, telling us what is responsible for this disconnect. We have quite a number of quirks, in the field, and you also mentioned what we can do about it. Right? We have to take our job serious as extension professional. To do the right thing, ensure that the needs of the people are being met. And I just want to quickly mention that I had the privilege to one of the conversation with Professor Olawoye Janisi, where she spoke about the some of this disconnect, where we have top-down delivery, of intervention, and it was like they thought they knew what the people wanted. The people used to go miles to fetch water, right? And they thought that if we situated water close to their homes, then they wouldn't have to go miles. And they created the borehole and all that, and they saw that people were not going to
They're not using
the
it
borehole; they were going to the stream, right? They found out that
so that they will
after
have time with
after
their children.
after the whole assessment, they found out that most of the women were usually indoor, and the only chance they get to talk was when they go to the stream. So it's not just about that the stream is for fetching water; it has become a way of life for them, right? So these are some
Interaction platform.
yes, exactly. These are some of the things to consider in when we are trying to implement intervention. Are you actually addressing the need of the people, or you are doing things based on what you feel is right for the people, right? So this is just my going to be my contribution to it. So if you are having any question, you can start sending in your question now. Benga Olayinka is saying that the submission is expository. However, how would a an extension practitioner understand the customary practices, customs, and law operational in different communities and places? We are going to address the question later, Benga. We have created a special session for audience to ask questions, and we are going to address that. So I just want to quickly move on to the next question. So we are well ahead of the time for the day. So, Professor Thomas, development problems, needs, and marketplace are evolving, and so must extension system. We are seeing increased competition for huge development funds. We are also seeing AI incorporation in our practice, and even why there are increasingly complex development problems. So, how would you advise for extension adaptation and position in this rapidly evolving competitive pluralistic environment to effect change? I tell you, I give for instance now, here in Nigeria and Africa, our extension system struggles. Our farmers are hindered by climate change, but they yet must produce, but their actions also contribute to climate change as well. So, on the other hand, we have AI, we have carbon credit and climate funding contested for by many stakeholders. So, how would you advise for the obsolete and struggling extension system, to connect these opportunities to solve real problems there? How would you advise for that?
Excellent. What is happening now is a plus for extension to thrive in the marketplace of development. And I'm going to say that over and over again. When you see problems are meant to be tapped into as a of opportunity. And in that case, if you want to put the question differently, you will ask me what competencies must today's extension practitioner possess in order to meet the changing narratives that we have in the midst of climate change challenges, digital disruption, urbanization, youth unemployment, and is talking about what we need to do is training and retraining exercise. It is not just enough to go to university to pick a degree in extension. And I want to say it loud and clear that we need to come on board an extension practitioner to make ourselves relevant in this marketplace. When you get to market, the idea is it has to be demand driven. The point is, do you have what people are looking for? If you don't have what people are looking for, apparently you're going to be out of market too soon. And that is why we need to the training on AI and other things that those challenges coming. For instance, the issue of climate change. Quite a number of things are being done now to mitigate and to ensure that we have a climate change resilience. Extension has a role to play in that space. Digital disruption that we have everywhere because of the issue of internet penetration that we have, you can imagine that offers a very big opportunity to advance innovation, even in sports. When you look at sports, you can imagine what the Premier League that is going on everywhere. Can you just imagine just an innovation that can be disseminated through that platform and quite a number of youth that will be reached? So what we are saying is that, every extension practitioner needs to come up and step up into this game by a lot of developing themselves. That's number one, and ensure that the competencies required to penetrate this market is acquired. You must ensure that you have what people are looking for, demand driven, not the supply side. And that is why the private extension is what we need to do now. Of course, we know the issue about public good is there when people are not willing to pay. But from the study we did with Sasakawa, we discovered that farmers are willing to pay. So far, they have value for what you are giving them. So the idea is not just about, but with the public extension system, which is, of course, now moribund because it's the supply side. The supply side will no longer work, but a situation where extension practitioner in that market has what to sell. If you have what to sell, people will come to buy. And whatever you want to sell must be such that is attractive and meet the need of the people. Not everybody in the market gets attention. Those who get attention are those who have something to offer, those who have solution to problems. And that is exactly what we need to, like what we are doing now. It has never been this way in 20 years, before now. When we use T and V system, it has evolved. And I will tell you that it will continue to evolve to a point where people need to take new challenges and also advance in dissemination of information so that the aspect of development, because we are talking of development, and we have quite a number of things that are interplaying in that development. So it's all about training and training, picking up challenges. Nobody study AI in school. Any professor you see now who graduated maybe 10, 15 years ago, they never study AI, but they are catching up. So that's what we need to do. You know, Learning should not stop. And once you study your audience, you study your clientele, and you are able to design what they need, you will remain in that market. So that's what we need to do. And of course, we need to make to increase the tempo. In school, of course, needed also to be dynamic. Dynamism in this curriculum, it shouldn't be what we used to teach those during our own time. They have no relevance now. But we can now begin to lay those ones as foundation to build on what we have now so that the young generation who are coming out of school will have their place in that market, which is my concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I pick very useful insight from that. We have to develop ourselves as much as possible to evolving needs and think more of demand approach than supply. Right? I like that. While talking to individuals, the students, the graduates here, also talk about the university and the curriculum as well. That it has to be adjusted to what is relevant in the marketplace, right? And I like that you challenge people to um, actually develop themselves very well to give value, not just I want to just be an extension agent or I'm just going to school or something. What do you have aside that? Because we have a lot of people that are not even from the sector that are playing extension agent role now,
They are doing
right?
so well.
And they are doing
Yeah,
well. So you have to
yeah.
put yourself out there. That you are not even competing alone with graduates from your field. You are competing with graduates from other fields, and due to their nature of able to quickly evolve, adapt to technology, different things, that are driving change, they are able to outcompete uh, many of us. So we have to start thinking, what should I be doing? What are some of the courses I should be taking? Training. I like that you mentioned training and retraining exercise. Very, very important. I hope that universities they will take note from this and improve the different curriculum in the school, right? So I move on to the fourth question. The fourth question is already connected with what you have, addressed the demand driven extension, the demand side, and so in tandem with the previous question and holistic nature of marketplace of development, right? It appears the role expectation of extension worker is beyond technical knowledge dissemination. It also entails facilitation, right? So, but some have argued that this demands more of the extension worker. So I'm asking you because I know that you already see it as opportunity, but we have to still talk on it. Do you think that this is a problem or that is more of an opportunity? And also, oftentimes the wages and benefits do not match that demand. A lot is expected now from the extension worker, but the wages and benefits accorded, are they commensurate, right? So do you think there is need for improved remuneration and compensation, or that extension should not be entrepreneurial but a public good, and extension worker have to undertake their work as a selfless service? What do you think, sir?
Thank you very much. I want to just tell us that we have great opportunity ahead of us as extension practitioners in this marketplace. That we don't need to see extension as only in the angle of dissemination of information. And I'm going to break it down further in this concept. And I'm going to explain with what I do in the recent time. Do you know that extension has a place in the issue of social impact assessment? Do you know that extension has a place in the place of environmental impact assessment? The issue of livelihood restoration plan, the issue of gender and other generational issues. Do you know that extension practitioners also have a place in the aspect of food and security, issue of nutrition? Quite a number of things we can do that you find in this marketplace. But if you box yourself only to the aspect of innovation and adoption, you'll be talking of remuneration. Remuneration in this context, is not something that you just maybe what government offers. Yes, I'm a lecturer in the University of Ibadan as a lecturer. That's not all that I do because we do teaching, research, and community service. And part of the community service is also to go out there and impact life. We have worked on issue of nutrition, child malnutrition. We have worked on the issue of climate change mitigation. We have worked on the issue of livelihood restoration. We have worked in the concept of digitization of extension in Nigeria. All these concepts, they don't come cheap. It's not equal to my salary. There are some you even do that you get your salary in just maybe few hours. So it's about competence, it's about what you have to offer. Quite a number of us don't know our value. If you know your value, you discover that all these things, it comes with a lot of premium added to what you are going to put on the table. So the challenge I'm throwing out to colleagues, don't box yourself only to adoption innovation. Step out. And I tell you, in this market, a lot of money exchange is taking place. And those money exchange, they are not cheap. And I can assure you, they are not cheap. Good money exchange in this market of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for lending your voice to that, and and expanding our view. There's so much opportunity in the space, and a lot is being earned. Like he rightfully said, you can earn salary of a month just in few hours work, right? So, and he has exposed us to many of the opportunities in the space: social impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, livelihood restoration plan, gender and generational issues, food and security, and nutrition, child malnutrition, digitalization of extension. And he's saying that many of us, we don't know our value. If you know your value, it how you value yourself determines how people value you, right? So if you are able to brand yourself, and put yourself in a very good manner out there, you are going to attract the good opportunity for yourself. So I'm going to move on to the next question, but I just want to tell the audience that soon we are going to start taking questions. We will soon reach the half mark of the discourse, right? So you can start sending your questions in. I'm already seeing quite a number of questions in the comment section. We'll be addressing that after these follow-up questions, right? So I move on to the fifth question. We've asked four questions previously, but this question is still going to be on collaboration, but this time it's going to be between arts and science. So I posted a video recently that I watched where farmers in Bangladesh, they developed these floating beds that they planted on when floods overtook their farmlands and make farming impossible. So the success of these innovations was quite remarkable, portraying a very high level of knowledge and scientific process. So now in innovation development process, I think for agricultural extension, they are doing better in that space. But in general extension, many times indigenous knowledge and those of farmers and rural people are not considered. They are seen as of no or lesser value, which is not true. And as we have seen with what I've said about the farmers, developing a floating bed to adapt against their situation. So I like to ask you that: what do you think is the implication of this omission, and what does this addition bring in this time of evolving multidisciplinary approach to development? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the things we leverage in extension practice is what we call reversal knowledge. And how do I mean by reversal knowledge? Where the teacher becomes the learner and the learner becomes the teacher. And that's exactly what every extension practitioner should do. Indigenous knowledge also is a form of science, but it's not complete science until people can follow the same step anywhere in the world and get the same result. So the idea that we need to bring on board is to take up what people used to do, refine it, and that is why the fusion of science and art. You To get it from the people takes a lot of uh, human touch, because most time they will not tell you until you have that ability to draw information out of them. Once you now get that, you now refine whatever technology in quotes that you've been having, and at the end of the day, and I'm going to paint a scenario here. When we had the advent of Army One, that was about almost 10 years ago, and we were in a farm. And what they do is to put sand in the cone of the maize, at the cone. And I asked, why do you do that? They said, that's where they have the larvae of the armyworm. And the sand suffocates them. Before that time, most farmers, what they do, or what most extension agents, what they teach is to spray without attention to what happens within the cone. Now, to now get those chemicals, because when you now begin to talk about sand, how many sand will you now begin to put if you have up to 10 hectares? Now, you now deploy that into teaching farmers, okay, you now have a chemical that can kill the armyworm, but now your concentration of spraying will now be on the cone. You can see the hearts, you can see signs there. Now, we now begin to spray the cone because those insects don't come out during the day. They come out in the night. While during the day, they remain inside the cone of the maize. So when you now spray directly into the cone, you don't just spray the soil, you don't just spray the plant, you spray the cone. When you spray the cone, automatically you now overcome the armyworm. Before then, they would think that the chemical is not working, but the chemical is working, but for wrong application. And that was, we got to know that through a farmer who puts sand in the cone of the maize, because once the sand get there, the insect suffocates and they will not be able to breathe and they die. But when you now begin to, on a large scale, that is going to be limited. So you can see stepping up what they know into aspect of science that is going to make them to have operations for maybe 10, 15 hectares of land. So reversal learning is the way to go. And I will tell you for free here. Farmers, they have knowledge, rich knowledge. Before we were born, before you go to school, they've been solving their problem. It may be in a crude way, but pick up the crudeness in the way they solve their problem, you refine it, and you take it to the market of development, you see the fusion of science and art. That's exactly what I'm putting across here. And you get that done anywhere, anytime. And you see that, one, because it is similar to what they've been doing before, adoption will not be difficult. So if it is far from what they used to do before, you begin to struggle in wanting them to adopt a new technology. And that is why from the principle of extension, you start from what they know to unknown. And that's the essence of this talk. So it's quite important for us to know that the extension practice can be applied in various dimensions. We have quite a number of them when it comes to grievance redress mechanism, for instance. In grievance redress, do you know that even with the issue of insurgencies that we have and all over the place, extension can come in issue of conflict resolution. And conflict resolution, I tell you, you may not need gun, you may not need cutlass, yet you solve the problem among the people. So these are things that are evolving in the development marketplace. You can imagine for a scientist or extension practitioner who has the engagement principle to resolve issue of conflict, maybe on issue of boundary, on the issue of land grabbing and what have you, you can be sure that that person has something to sell. And once you have something to sell, people will look for you, and definitely you are going to make a lot of money in that space. Maybe I should pause here so that when we have other things related, I can speak to it.
Thank you so much for that. I particularly love this part. It helps to answer that question. And I love the fact that you mentioned that reversal knowledge, very important, where the teacher becomes, the learner. There's a lot to learn. It's not only top-down approach, it's also bottom-up approach. We are having this two-way communication where the disseminator and the person adopting, they are learning from one another to actually bring about sustainable and responsive change, responsive intervention as well. So I like that, you gave this practical example using the army worm. You explained that it's not necessary. It's not that the indigenous knowledge is good, but many times it might not be systematized, and enable re-implementation to give the same result every time. So you said that what do we do about this? What we have to do is to refine, and set it up that, in a scientific way, right? So is you also mentioned that it's easier to actually work on what people are already used to rather than bringing something entirely new, and is one of the things to consider in innovation adoption process, right? For extension workers, easier to push. So thank you so much for that. So we will now progress to addressing the questions in the comment section. I would go by the order of um, arrangement. Okay, I think the first question is from Benga Olayinka. So he's saying that the submission is expository. However, how would an extension practitioner understand the customary practices, customs, and law operational in different communities and space? So I think that he's saying that the customary practices, customs, and law is diverse, right? So
Yeah,
how will an extension practitioner have knowledge of all this to be able to effectively deliver his mission?
that's a very good question. And uh, to address that, what to do is a good community entry process or good community entry exercise. That's the first thing to do when you are given any project. It is not for you to just jump into the community. There are steps to take for legitimization to ensure that you enter the community appropriately. Some people call it scoping. In your scoping exercise, that's when you get to know the do's and don'ts of that community. I have quite a number of experience in this space. You get to some places, for you to be accepted, you must break a cola. In some places, you eat the cola. That talks about, how diverse we are as a nation. Everywhere in the world, pick kola nut, for instance. Kola nut in the north, they eat kola nut. The same kola nut, oh, when you get to the east, is they adore it. Okay? In the south is an economic crop. The same kola nut. So the best way to do that, to ensure that you don't infringe on the laws of the people, is to go through proper community entry process. And to do that, the first thing is to pay homage to the community head, tell them of your intentions, and from there, they will get you to know that where you don't need to go, where you need to go. In some places, maybe you are conducting study on issue of water bodies. And there are water bodies in that community that they don't fish in there until after 1 year. You get to know that during the scoping exercise, that you don't go to that place until after 1 year. Perhaps there is nothing attached to it, maybe it's just for conservation. That's the science behind it. But they will put some fear behind it that if you go, something is going to happen. But you don't need to infringe on their rights. All you do is just to follow what you have been asked to do. So once that is done, then you share with them your purpose. When you share the purpose of your entry, whether it is in tandem with what they have or not, that will be known. Until approval is given, don't conduct any exercise in that community. And they will tell you, perhaps, this is a community that you don't mess up with their ladies. If you do, there are still penalties. This is a community where you don't go out 8 p.m. This is a community where you don't come out until 6 a.m. All those things, they lay them out during community entry process. So it's a whole lot of cost. Community entry process is what we teach, because if you don't In fact, that's what makes success of any development project. If you get it wrong at the angle of community entry, the project is as good as a failure. So that's the way to go about it. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you so much for that. Just to repeat what you've said, appropriate community entrance is very important before you go about whatever you want to do in a community. And I like to
Mm.
take an example of a particular community whereby sometimes it might appear that the the people in the community or their culture is homogeneous, but when you get inside, you see that there is an element of heterogeneous in their culture. I got to know of a culture where the men they have their language, the women have their separate language. They are still within the same tribe,
The
but
same community.
they have different languages and also different values and taboos. Right, so it's appropriate to conduct, proper community. It's important to conduct proper community entrance. You pay homage to the community head, tell them your intentions, and let them give you proper guidance. And once this is given, stick to their values and taboos, share with them your purpose. Until approval is given, don't conduct any exercise. I hope I'm able to repeat that properly. So we move on to the next question. I will take after this. I will take one more question. Then we'll proceed with questions to Professor, and then we still address other questions. Right. So I just want to quickly mention this. Adela Olubimi is saying knowledge plus need plus policy plus practice, innovation plus impact. Very good breakdown, sir. So I take the question from the history vault. So his question goes this way: in a situation where the commercial government extension service cannot make the necessary changes, can the private cater for needs of smallholders who may not be able to afford the financial? Okay, it didn't complete that. So he's saying that, for instance, these smallholders use very simple devices that have capacity to do very little, and they rely on mostly local languages. So it's basically saying that, can private extension, work where we don't have commercial government extension service in place, and especially for smallholder farmers looking at their um, specific socio-economic status. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, that is very, very important. Um, it is very important for us to note one thing. One, private extension have really stepped up to meet these challenges. Number one, we have the person is saying is already in place. We have the quite a number of private extension agents meeting the needs of farmer. And how do they do it? The Catholic Relief Mission is doing fantastically well. Sasakawa is doing fantastically well. We have Extension Africa is doing very well, and quite a number of them, they are doing well. Crop to Cash is a digital platform. One of our students is also doing well in that space. And how do they do it? There's what we call bundling. They bundle they don't tell farmers you are paying for this. So they bundle their services. In bundling services, it means when you are buying fertilizer, you're already paying for the extension service unknowingly to farmers. That's what they do. They will not tell you, come on, when you are buying herbicides, like for instance, the OCP fertilizer, which we did restoration, livelihood restoration plant for in December, in Sokoto, in Kaduna, and in Ogun State. What they do, they have all the things they produce, herbicides, fertilizer, and they give them this input as subsidized rates. And they have extension agent attached to them. So, for instance, when you now buy your fertilizer at 7,000 naira, what farmer is paying for in their mind is fertilizer. But part of the money inbuilt in that fertilizer is the service charge for extension. That's why we call it bundling model. That model is working fantastically well for private extension, because even though we found that farmers are willing to pay, but I tell you, in reality, quite a number of them, we don't know how much they will be willing to pay. But with the bundling services model, that is also helping our farmers to get extension information through private outlets. And that is all over the place now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for that, and for we as individuals seeking to provide extension service, to smallholder farmers. This is one of the strategy that we can adopt, right? And also important to know that just because farmers are willing to pay doesn't mean they are willing to pay a certain amount. So it's left for you to do your research properly and offer appropriate, you know, appropriate strategy for you to capture them in. So I'll go to the next question. This is the last question that will be taken. I will proceed to we return to asking prof questions. Just to mention this as well, Amusa Oluwatoyin, she says, refine the crudeness in the ways farmers solve their problems and take it back to them. Adoption of innovation will be made easy. So would read out this question. Charles Ayeba Du Bamote. Sorry if I pronounce that wrongly. It, the person is saying, kindly debunk the issue of grievance redress mechanism as unprofessional to the extension agent's mandates. Are you are you able to see that, sir?
Well, maybe what the person have in mind is how do you deploy GRM as an extension practitioner? Is very simple. We have various level of GRM. We have at the community level, we have at the state level, we have at the federal level, depending on the project. And as much as possible, maybe I should just let us know that grievance is a misconception that you have concerning anything. It is not yet a conflict. When it is not resolved, that's when it turns to conflict. But projects, they know that if you bring maybe water bowl to a community, and what you need to do, like community mapping, is not done. Apparently, it's going to be far away from somebody's house, and it's going to be closer to somebody's house. To somebody who is far away and still need water, may have some grievance. Are we getting it now? So when resources are not equitably distributed, apparently you're going to have grievance. And grievance is not bad, as it were. Not every grievance, not every conflict is bad. We have some positive grievance and negative grievance. So what you need to do is just to create an avenue where you ventilate your grievance. And let me tell you, this is a World Bank standard. In any project, you must have a GRM committee. What you do, you have them in schools. That's why you have suggestion box. Is another way of showing your grievance. You don't need to write your name. You just write, oh, the time the food they cook in the hostel is salty, and you drop it. That's a grievance. And the principal reads it and say, oh, call the caterer. Can you improve the salt in your food? And if the person doesn't see any change, they can now begin to carry placards. Oh, we no go gree, oh, we no go gree. That's what happens. But before it gets to that point, you settle your grievance. So, like I said, at the community level, you have a committee where then you open a register. After the register is opened, you look into the grievance, you resolve, then you just tick off. If it's not unresolved, then you move from community to state, depending on the level of project. At the state level, if it's not resolved, that's when it now escalates. And we have quite a number of ways for resolution. Some, it may even lead to court. Some people may go to court, depending on the level of grievance. So it's a whole lot of things that we need to talk about, in GRM. And I hope maybe the person's acts, have been, educated with this little explanation that I've made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I'll just, in my way, quickly repeat what you've said. Grievance is not bad, but when not properly resolved, turns to conflict, right? And you gave us a process to actually go about that. And I just want to share from my own personal experience, delivering service to people, right? Many of the clients, customers, the audience, and the beneficiaries, many times they just want to feel hard, right? That someone is listening to the problem that I have with what the service that you are delivering to me, and from there they won't um, they won't constitute any problem anymore. So far, you are able to address their uh, grievances, right? So
Concern. Mm.
their concerns as well. So please, so let's take that into consideration. So I will just entertain one more question, and that will be from Akilabu Akinsola. He's asking that, is there a relationship between agric extension and educational courses? For example, agric education, adult education, etc. For example, extension is more or less educating, teaching and learning.
Yes, lot of relationship, but what I'm bringing on board is we have stepped up beyond just education. If you have listened to us from the beginning of this broadcast, you'll see that we are stepping up. It's not, you can do much more than education. GRM is not education. Social impact assessment is not education. The issue of lively restoration plan is not education. So come up to that market. Other things are there for you to display. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I hope the owner of the question is able to take one or two things from that. So I'll move on to the next question now. This time is still on collaboration. So, Professor Thomas, I like to think that the problem of multidisciplinary extension approach not bringing about the needed result is in part of asymmetry between art and science. So technology knowledge is important, right, to addressing needs, but it does well with creativity, innovation, and human-centered approaches. However, with many initiatives, we see linear approaches and technical knowledge without skills, without soft skills like and those rather good ideas, projects, and interventions, they fail on delivery or achieve temporary success. So I'd like to ask that, what are some of the soft skills extension worker should embody, and how would you advise for repositioning of this sort of thinking in our extension systems and university? You were on to something similar in a previous question, so I just want you to address that, the soft skills
Yeah,
extension worker
yes.
to.
Thank you very much. Number one, soft skill has to do with human relationship. It's a skill. Managing people is the calling of extension practitioners. Human behavior is so complex. And if you cannot navigate how to manage people, you are not meant for this market. It's like somebody who gets to the market and they ask you, how much is your fufu? Ah, they say it's 10 naira. The person say, can I pay 2 naira? And you begin to abuse the person. I'm sure you get that in the market when you get to the market. The question I will pose is that, will you buy that fufu even when it's cheaper than what you are bargaining? You're not going to do that. So we need human management skill because we deal with people in this marketplace of development. All these are painted centers around human being. And when you pick extension as a whole, farmers are the center of it all. And if you must thrive and succeed, the soft skill of human management is very important. That is why your sociology and psychological instincts in behavioral science must be sound. Without which, the market will just not be profitable unto you. And that is what we must do. Even from a little sample, when you look at what happens in Department of Agric Extension and Rural Development, I will not mention other departments, see what their students face, you will see that there's a whole lot of difference. So I will not, belabor this, that we need that skill as, that is a soft skill. You learn it over time. Human management, you should be able to do that. Then I will also talk about social marketing skill. Social marketing skill. Um, in social marketing, we sell ideas. And I tell you, as extension practitioners, we are also marketers. And unfortunately, what we sell, they are not tangible objects. Still convincing people to buy is a whole lot of exercise. It's like you are selling ice cream in the winter. Can you imagine? It requires not just a certificate for you to sell. You need soft skill to persuade and to ensure that they have value for what they are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I just shared the soft skill that I said is needed to be embodied by an extension worker. Human management skill is important to have understanding of psychology and also understanding of behavioral sciences. And the second soft skill is social marketing, the ability to successfully sell ideas. And the ideas that we sell most time in the field of extension is not uh, always physical, right? And it's important to know how to persuade people to buy your idea. So I move on to the next question of the day. We are moving pretty fast. Um, okay, so we have understood that extension is both an art and science, right? And easily, if we are delivering or selling something that is physical, we can say, okay, we can quantify that in numbers, figures, statistics, and but we are delivering something that has to do with art and science. So I want to know, how should we measure success in this sort of extension work? Can impact truly be quantified? How would we go about quantifying success in this way?
Excellent. Very good question. And I will address that with the theory of change. In the theory of change, you have activities, you have input, you have output, you have outcome, then you have impact. Let me also say loud and clear. In this marketplace, we have what we call, monitoring and evaluation. So, as extension practitioner, you can come into this market to measure impact, which is MIE. And I want to break it down so simple. Monitoring means, are you on track? Evaluation means, are you in your destination or at your destination? If you are on track, you'll be in your destination. So, and using the theory of change to measure this, you have an activity. Activity to talk about things that you plan to do. The activity you are doing will require some input. resources to get the activity done. And of course, the next thing is, you now have an output, which is the immediate result. Then you have the next one is the outcome, which is intermediate result. Then impact, which is the change that you are looking for. In a layman's language, let me just explain this and you will get it, you will not forget it for life. Activity number one, you are hungry. Then what's the input? You eat food. And what is the output? Hunger will cease. That is the immediate result. Are you getting it now? Then the outcome, of course, now talks about your tissues, your muscles begin to be energized. You have energy, you can run. Impact now talks about it's the food eaten now is now translated into height, into body weight, and what have you, which is the impact. So in any of these, you can also translate that into maybe a farmer who says, yes, I need to improve production. Activity one is you are introducing biochar, which is organic fertilizer. Then the input is to now supply the biochar. Then you now begin to have the output. You see the growth. The plants are no longer yellow. Then outcome. You see that the sizes, they are increasing every day. The output, the impact will now be the tonnage per hectare will be increased. So you can measure impact. That can be done in several ways. But in a simple way to do that, follow the theory of change. When you follow the theory of change judiciously, you can track and know where the problem lies. Because impact is at the end. But if you don't track it, if the activity, when you get activities and there are no inputs, apparently you cannot get impact. So that's what to do in tracking and measuring impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the relatable example using theory of change, input, output, outcome, impact, monitoring, and evaluation. So I proceed to the next question. If you are having question, you can start putting it in the comment section. We already have some more questions that we want to take, so we can take them all together. So I proceed to the next question now. Professor, I'd like to ask, how should extension ensure its intent of responsive and sustainable intervention prevails in the multidisciplinary collaboration process without being diluted, drowned out, or diverted? For instance, it has been reported that agricultural and rural development have funded in peanuts and as poverty alleviation scheme and other than as opportunity creation and thus with little impact, based on outsiders' view or perspective or intent of the funder. How could extension as a body system overcome this to bring about?
Yeah, recently we have what we call unified extension system. In a unified extension system model, that's where we get to remove every form of quack in the system and all sort of those who are not, you know, have no business in this marketplace. This is particularly important now that we are in the world of AI. Digitization is being done mostly now by those who are not, particularly for agricultural extension. Those who have, some of them don't even have background in agriculture. But now we have, the Federal Department of Extension in the in the ministry in Abuja. And they now do what we call, they coordinate digitization. All the platform, digital platform that we have in the country, they are the one coordinating to remove what we call the information overload. Everybody seems to know everything now. When you open your social media, people educate people, and I tell you, some of them don't even know what they are talking about. So the process is on to coordinate extension practice in the country. And that coordination will make everybody to register with the Federal Department of Extension. Then there will be guideline for operations, and they will monitor what everybody is doing in that space. With that, we'll be able to remove the hands of those who want to destroy the market, because the market is big and we don't want people to come and destroy the market. You know what happens when you get to a market and they just tell you that that product in that market is fake? Nobody is going to buy. So for that space to be sanitized, the process is on with the Federal Department of Extension to coordinate the activity of extension service in Nigeria. And I have information on that because we have worked closely with them, and that is already on. They have launched their own digital space at the Federal Department of Extension, where everyone in digital extension space need to launch in their own platform for regulation and coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for keeping us abreast with what is being done to address that. So I move on to the question and answer session for the audience that we are having. The first question I'm going to take is from Rafiu Sadiq Olawale. So he's asking that in resource limited communities, how can extension workers apply innovative practices without heavy reliance on technology? That is his question.
Well, I may not be able to, maybe I didn't get your question very well. Are you a private extension or a freelance? If you are a freelance, less you map out your communities. And in mapping your community, you identify a need. Once you push a need out, apparently people will be able to, patronize you for a fee. Like I said earlier, you must connect your knowledge to need. Once needs is connected, you can be sure that it will thrive.
Thank you for that, sir. I move on to the next question. Akinlabu Akinsola. To incorporate physical science into agric extension? What is your advice to people coming from physical science into extension?
Apparently, like it's multidisciplinary. You cannot be everything. Partner with those people, test your results before you disseminate. That's why the issue of piloting is very, very important. Those in breeding, for instance, those in chemistry, physical sciences, their output is your own dissemination. So it's a multidisciplinary outlet that you need to, but you must do pilot to be sure that what you are advancing is correct and it meets the need of the people.
Thank you for that. Another question by Rafiu Sadiq Olawale. Professor, kindly elaborate more on how one can use extension practices in conflict resolution, a case study of the northern part of the country, practical method.
Excellent. Yes. For every community, they know themselves. And that is what we need to do. When you get to those communities and they have a lot of indigenous method. I was in a community in Ogun State. I won't mention the name of community because this is a social media that can go viral. But as soon as I mention what they do, you will know that they also take care of these things. The community is in the Yewa part of Ogun State. You dare not steal anything in that community. If you steal, you die mysterious death. And kidnappers, they attempted to get there. I got to know this when I was on sabbatical with Ogun State Economic Transformation Project. And what they just do is that the person will be swelling. So one of the kidnappers will now, they will be telling themselves, you don't come to that community or else. Even when you steal their goods, what if you steal a fowl, what are we saying? Indigenous method, but that can be scale up. Faith-based and other religious things have taken this out of our hands, but they also have their place in conflict resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I will now go back to a question that omitted. The history vault is asking that where does mentorship like the Igbo apprenticeship find itself on this space, science or art?
Yes, it's the fusion. We are doing that also. Professor Lawi mentored us. Professor Oyishola mentored us. Professor Oladeji mentored us. I'm also mentoring people. Quite a number of people. Some of them may be online now hearing me, which we have mentored. So mentorship is one. Submitting yourself to be mentored is another thing. And I've told people in that marketplace, your concern should not be money first. Quite a number of young people today, they put money forward. But as soon as you put money forward, it's automatic failure. Those who work with me, that has been the concern. And I tell them, let's work, money will come. And I am proud to say here, quite a number of them who yielded to this advice, they are already in this marketplace. So it's not difficult to mentor, but some people are not mentorable because the thought is money, money, money. I remember many, many years ago, as a PhD student, still working, I have my own job, but I was working with one of the professors in the department, is of blessed memory now, late Professor Terry Olowu, who, after doing the whole, he got 10,000 euro. That time, big money. To his office and said, Thomas, thank you very much. Your time will come. I simply walk out. I was not offended. And indeed, my time came. So, but many of the people today, they will see it as an aberration. You got 10,000 euro, you are not giving me one euro. They will say, they will call you name, wicked, this and that. I never called him anything, but I was ready to learn. And I learn, and I learn, and learn. The learning is what make me to be in that marketplace now. So for you to be in that marketplace, subject yourself to mentoring and not money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone is protesting his question, his previous PRN, if I get it right. So he's saying that, Professor Sir, is it not unprofessional for extension personnel to involve in conflict resolution within rural communities as against the mandate of extension practices?
Well, I don't know what you meant, but people know people in those communities, they know what they want. You are following community rules. That's why I say it's reversal learning. Every community has a way of, of resolving their conflict. If you follow their pattern, and I tell you, they can resolve their conflicts, and they will resolve their conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I hope your question has been answered, and to many people that placed in their question, I hope you'll be able to get answers to your question, and also people that contributed, not asking questions but making additions. Thank you so much for making the whole discourse robust. So I just want to ask you one last question, sir. Looking ahead, how extension evolve how can extension evolve to better blend art and science, to meet complex needs of future development challenges? How can we better blend art and science to meet evolving challenges, needs in the development space in the future?
Excellent. The issue of engagement, rule of engagement, the art component of rule engagement merge with technology evolving or the evolving technology will place us on a better pedestal in advancing extension practice. And I tell you, rule of engagement is key in all that we do because we are one of the professions that make that people, they are the center of what we do. They are the center of what we do. And the science of it, the foundation of the science is the rudiment of research and data collection and what have you. And the aspect of human touch is the art part of it. So when you merge the two, quite a number of our farmers are disappointed because we have asked them several questions, we have published several papers with no benefit. So the human touch, which is the aspect they must benefit, that is going to make us remain in that market. So that's the way to go. That's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Thomas, for addressing all the questions that I've posed to you today. It's been very insightful, and I want to proceed, to summarizing the discussion of today, and then you would help us with giving us a 1 minute closer of, advice to the young people, how to better position themselves out there, and to be valuable, make impact, and name for themselves in the space. But before I go on to that, I'd like to entertain one more question. I'll give a grace of that, from Rafiu Sodiq Olawale, asking that I want to appeal that teaching, I think it's not question, is a contribution. I want to appeal that our teaching and learning process in the field of extension should be more practical oriented than
Oriented.
theoretical.
Theoretical.
Yep. So that's his appeal. I hope that is going to be considered,
That is
especially by
noted. Don't worry,
especially
you are already in the marketplace. We'll bring you on board.
okay, especially for people that are listening, and Professor Thomas as well is in the place to effect changes in that aspect, right? So I just want to quickly run on up the summary of what we've discussed today. We started initially by trying to understand what extension practice in the marketplace of development is, a future, a fusion rather of art and science, in which he explained that very much that is not just about scientific, pushing scientific knowledge, pushing technical knowledge, that extension now has a role of facilitation, and there is room for inclusion of human-centered approaches, and which also entail that the extension worker must embody quite a number of soft skills, in which are he put as number one, human relationship, people management skill, right? And some of the things that we have to be abreast and adept with. That's psychology, behavioral sciences, and being able to sell, the aspect of social marketing. And he also explained that the marketplace of development is not just about extension alone, extension practice, extension workers. We also have some other stakeholders in the space, that um, their interrelation helps to shape, you know, um, the final development, the final development of anything that we are doing, right, to make it more sustainable and impactful. And we proceeded to actually trying to see if indigenous knowledge is very important and is equal to scientific knowledge in the process of innovation development, right? And we got to see that fine, indigenous knowledge is powerful, highly respected, but the problem is that in many cases is not methodical, right? And by the fact that it's not methodical, it may not be necessarily be able to be replicated to give same result every time. So that's the essence of science itself, that the whole knowledge is documented and we are able to repeat the same process and get the same result every time, right? So, and he also told us on some of the things that we should be doing to actually ensure that we are able to put um, indigenous knowledge, knowledge of farmers, and knowledge of rural people, into consideration. And we went on to discuss how um, extension with struggling resources, being obsolete, sh- should be able to exploit opportunities among the challenges, that we have. We related the issue of climate change, whereby what climate change is impacting the productivity of farmers, and also that farmers have to still produce and their actions also contribute to climate change. So how are farmers going to leverage opportunities in that space, looking at the possibilities of AI, looking at the possibility that we have huge development funds who are being for by other stakeholders in the space. So we address that and we move also to um, to talking about the extension worker, the extension work itself, right? That what the extension worker is now doing based on the diverse nature of the marketplace of development is not just about disseminating technical knowledge. So the extension worker has a role of facilitation. So I placed a question to him whether he sees this as a problem, because many people see that with this sort of increased responsibility, it demands more from extension worker. Unfortunately, Professor Thomas sees it as opportunity, right? And he called on upon us, the different agents in the space, agents of change, practitioners in the space, that we should level up, we should develop capacity, our skills as much as possible, you know, and also call for demand-driven service rather than seeking to just supply service to the target audience, the beneficiaries, right? And and he exposed us that to the fact that there are a lot of lucrative opportunity in the space, right? And there are some opportunities that will pay you in an hour what you would earn in a month or many months, right? So it depends on how you are able to brand yourself, package yourself, and present yourself into the space to be unique and distinct, right? So we move on to um, the question whether the inclusion of indigenous knowledge is very important, whether to sideline scientific knowledge. And I've initially talked about that. We discuss on also how to quantify, to track the success, the impact of extension extension work, intervention, having this renewed understanding that extension is not just about deploying, disseminating technical knowledge. It also has to do with facilitation, as this sort of human-centered approach. Is not just about trying to quantify the whole impact and success in numbers. Now, how do you move beyond that? And he was able to give us a process to actually quantify that using the theory of change, where we have the input output and the input output outcome impact, and also talking about monitoring and evaluation, right? And so we also spoke on how to ensure that the mission, the goal of the extension field in bringing about a sustainable and lasting change, lasting development is not diluted. It stays resolute, irrespective of many participants that we have in the marketplace of development. How do we go about that, especially for people that are funding extension courses, and have this sort of idea that agricultural and rural development is a poverty alleviation scheme, and so they fund it in peanuts and in a certain way. So he was able to share uh, a way that we can come that, and some of the things that have been done, talking about unified extension system model, and the other part that is the digital extension. So I believe that I've been able to summarize to some extent here. And if you were not able to catch on with what is being discussed today, the discussion is being recorded, and you have opportunity to be listening to it. Meanwhile, I just want to quickly mention that this space, this discussion, this discourse was brought to you by the Last Giddy Farmer podcast. So we always have this sort of discussion, enlightening, educative, insightful discussion from time to time, and we bring wonderful, well experienced, and vast guest like you would have for today, Professor Kehinde Thomas. When I initially read his address, I said that we are going to hear from a distinguished personality that has wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. And based on our engagement today, it turned out to be very true. Professor, I want to really appreciate you on that. And a lot of people are sending, their positive remarks. The history vote is, clapping, saying thank you, Prof. And we have Anthony Agbongia Uyi. Uh, Okay, I think I already addressed that. I appeal to you that the video recording is sent to us. That will be done. And Hakiba Yusuf is also sending applauses. And Antonio as well is saying that kudos to Prof. Thomas on his excellent rather performance today. Well done, sir. So I would now leave yield the mic for you, sir, to give us the 1 minute advice, especially for young people that are pursuing
Okay.
career in this space, to make themselves valuable, wanting to do something impactful, based on this renewed understanding of what extension practice is, with the evolving nature of the marketplace of development, right? That presents quite unique and a number of opportunities. What would you advise, them to stay ahead? I know that you've mentioned um, many things, but I just want you to give us
It's all right. It's all
very
right.
closer.
I need to also state that Aziz is one of us. He is a graduate from Extension and Rural Development. I'm very proud to also introduce him as someone in that marketplace, and I'm sure that he's going to go very far. He's passionate about this. I mean, the podcast itself is an arm of marketplace of development. So he's doing fantastically well, and I know he's going to go far. Passion into what he's doing, and you can see that it's everywhere in the media world. So that's the challenge I'm going to throw to all the young people out there. Do something for yourself. you know, create a market. Last Gidi is a market. He may not be getting money from it now, but I tell you, that market is going to fetch him money someday. So create a market for yourself. Like Last Gidi has created a market, I want to see very soon or hear very soon that you are also creating a market. We want so many people in this marketplace of development. During the course of our discussion, I mentioned one of my students also in this market, crop to cash is in this market. So the bottom line is the certificate is not the thing that you should just hold to your chest. What you need to hold to your chest is something that will take you to that market, and that is the fusion of art and science in extension practice. So, on that note, thank you for the audience. Thank you for bringing me here. And I know someday it will be so clear that this marketplace is where you should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that really beneficial address, and I hope we are able to take uh, one or two things that we are going to apply to our career from that. And I want to, implore you to, because we've had so many discussions so far that you can benefit from. You can look at this. Platform that we are using to have this discuss at this time. You can check through and try to subscribe. And we are also on Spotify. You can just maybe you have Spotify account, just Google the Last Giddy Farmer podcast, or just press it on your Spotify account, the Last Giddy Farmer podcast. Try to subscribe. I've shared the link here. It will be really great to have you on board, and we share thoughts together. I want to proceed to ending the event now, but I just want to thank Professor Thomas again, for joining us today and sharing from his knowledge, experience, expertise, and personally, live experience, sharing practical examples in every case possible. So I thank you so much for that. I hope that we'll be able to have you again, on the platform, and that there are so many other
Yes.
impactful that we can do together. And just to let the people know that Professor Thomas has really been impactful in my life. He has guided me in so many ways, particularly for my career. And I wouldn't say more than that. And he knows what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
so I'm truly honored, for you to say that what I'm doing is meaningful, is having impact, and also recognizing me as one of the people in the space, and also saying that I'm going to go far, and you look forward to me going far as well. So I also want to call upon the participant, the audience, and colleagues in the field, that we are having this discussion together, also to be try to distinguish yourself, to make a name for yourself in the space as well. Try to do something remarkable and valuable. I look forward to you coming on board. And like Professor has said, that we have to develop ourselves as much as possible. One of the problems that we are having, the extension system, the field, the practice, is not doing well as it should, is because we are not having the certified people from the space, doing the works. We have outsiders doing the work that are not qualified for what they are doing. So I hope that we are going to take that challenge, take that responsibility, and be accountable for ourselves, for the discipline, and for the greater good of the rural economy, agriculture, and society and nation. Thank you so much. So I proceed to ending the space. I see you, Taiwo Kadijat. I see you, Babs Ali. You saying thank you and well done, Mr. Aziz. Taiwo Kadijat, thank you so much, sir, for the insightful knowledge, and Toib Aziz for a wonderful motivation. Babs Ali, thank you very much, sir. Professor Thomas Adiola Mo, well done, Prof. Prof. It was so insightful. I feel so deep. Prof, thank you. Eunice Macaulay, thank you for sharing such insightful and impactful knowledge on this podcast platform. And well done, Mr. Aziz, for organizing this program. Savatech Workstation, Prof. Sir, you are highly appreciated. And we are having a lot of people they just keep sending in their praises and positive remarks. They show that this particular event was very, very, very impactful. And on behalf of everyone, I say thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you.
I'm going to end off
Thank you
this.
very much. Yeah, thank you. God bless you.
And you too, sir.
Bye. Yeah, bye. Bye.